Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here from aBlogtoWatch. Please subscribe to our videos on YouTube and like this video if you find it useful. This is a review of the Hermes Arceau. This is one of the newer versions in hazelnut color. This watch has been around for a good amount of years. I believe the 70s is when the Arceau was originally designed, but I might be wrong in that. I'm also not entirely sure that I'm pronouncing it correctly. I don't know that anyone at Hermes has properly told me how to pronounce it, so if I mispronounce it, I do apologize. Hermes is one of those brands that has a lot of iconic looking watches. It's one of those fashion brands. It's a luxury brand, of course, but it's among the few that has been able to successfully enter the watch world and have a truly high-end product that is in what I'll call enthusiast grade. They do, of course, have some more mainstream watches that are a little bit more basic and affordable, and of course they have very, very high-end ones. This one is a little bit more on the mainstream side, but it's not a quartz watch, it's mechanical, and it has a really lot of nice things about it. If you see the movement here, you can see a small pattern. It's a little bit difficult to see. It's a repeating H pattern, which is a unique motif that Hermes uses on their movements. Hermes owns a movement producer named Vaucher, which produces the movements for them. And Vaucher also makes movements for a lot of other companies, including ones that people know very well, like Richard Mille. Not all of Richard Mille movements, but Vaucher does make a lot of movements for Richard Mille. This particular version of the Arceau is newer insofar that it has a slightly different dial. The iconic hour markers that are sort of like, I call them italicized Breguet markers. Breguet had a unique sort of style of writing Arabic numerals that was slightly decorative. It was attractive, and interestingly enough, this one sort of made those a little bit on the italicized side, which I happen to like, and they look a little bit like they are revolving around the dial. The case itself is 40 millimeters wide. Relatively simple, but a lot of interesting nuances. I think the most distinctive element, of course, is the asymmetric lugs, where the lugs on the top here are obviously a lot more pronounced than the relatively stubbier lugs on the bottom. I believe that Hermes credits certain inspirations from the equestrian world, which it, of course, has a lot of historic connection to for this particular design. Case quality is nice. It's relatively thin. It's got this interesting sort of double lip here, which I find cool. It doesn't really make it feel thicker, but when you look at it, it offers a lot more visual interest. It's a very curvy case, which I happen to like a lot. There's different versions, like I said, of the Arceau. There's chronographs, there's some more complicated models. This two-hand model is among the more elegant. I'm not sure if this hazelnut color is for me. I actually prefer this with a lighter dial that's a little bit more classic with darker colored hands and numerals. This one I find to be not as legible because you have polished hands on a dial that has a lot of shine and gloss to it. And if there's any real big complaint I have about this watch, it is that the crystal, which is curved, has a significant amount of reflectivity and glare, and that is because of a lack of anti-reflective coating on the surface, or not having enough anti-reflective surface coating on the surface. But the design itself is really quite nice. Hermes alligator strap, you should expect nothing less from an Hermes timepiece. So let's put this on. Let's take a look at it. And again, I also just want to say that really what I appreciate about Hermes as a watchmaker is that they've had so many, I'll call them truly iconic watches. There's the H watch that looks like an H. There's various other models that can't necessarily describe their shape, but they are one of those brands that when you see their watches, you know very well that it's an Hermes timepiece. And I happen to think that given sort of the Parisian focus on elegance and luxury, they do a good job. I've seen people out and about wearing Hermes watches, and I always think they look very, very classy. This is 40 millimeters wide in steel. As I said, I find these colors to be, for my skin tone, a little bit more on the feminine side. It just happens to look kind of like a light beige, where I mostly think of items that are made for women that happen to have this color. If you do like this color and you have a skin tone where this works really well, or perhaps you dress in a style that these colors fit, I think you're going to sort of like the look. I do, however, wish that the dial was slightly more legible. The dial features just the time without seconds, which is something I actually like. Some people really hate it when there's no seconds hands. I find it to be a little bit elegant, or more elegant, I guess you should say, but there is the date window there above 6 o'clock. And it's actually very rare, in my opinion, to find mechanical watches with 2 hands and the date. You just don't see that very often. Maybe nobody really cares, but it does make the watch slightly more distinctive. Buckle here is kind of funny because I always accidentally put it through that top loop there, but this buckle looks like a lot of other Hermes items and is something which is also distinctive, so you notice what the watch is from the front as well as from the buckle side. The movement is known as the H1837. It's a relatively simple but attractively made simple automatic movement, 4 Hertz, probably about 2 days of power reserve. It's good from a storytelling perspective to mention that it is in fact technically in-house made by Hermes. If it was just an ETA, it probably wouldn't necessarily be as interesting. And I think that for the type of customer that is interested in, again, a known international luxury brand, but also wants a timepiece which is, as I said, enthusiast approved, something like the Hermes Arceau, or other models like the Clipper, the Cape Cod, I'm not even sure if they make the Clipper anymore, I always like the Clipper, are good choices. And price-wise, it's not crazy. The price for this version of the Hermes Arceau, again 40 millimeters wide in steel, is $6,150. You can see the full review on aBlogtoWatch. Thanks.